Hello and welcome back to the Sekimeiya Spun glass. I felt a little uncomfortable stepping onto the wooden floor, aware that cameras might have been about to record us. That sensation didn't seem to be shared by Atsuki, who directly approached the living room. Doesn't look like anyone else has been here. Plenty of footprints were still visible, and I figured Atsuki knew they were the same ones we'd seen before leaving. Hey, hasn't the smell from earlier faded away a lot? Oh, I think you're right. I'm so exhausted. Even if we shouldn't be here, at least nobody will bother us, assuming Naomi really can't get in. He walked down the hallway, sighing deeply. After choosing to open the right door, I heard him falling onto the bed. I entered the room and recalled that there was only one bed. He was already lying face down, all energy drained out of him. I stood by the door for a moment and then closed it after stepping in. I could have gone to the neighboring room, but I decided to go to the upper level instead. There, I shakily sat on one of the beds, finding my situation unnerving. My whole body was stiff and my mind felt numb. After a while, I managed to lie down and the mattress reminded my body how tired it was. I didn't fight the tiredness. On the foreign bedsheets recorded by a camera on that forbidden floor, I pushed my consciousness away until it dissipated. That's interesting as well, talking about differences between the previous timeline and this timeline, is I'm pretty sure in the previous timeline they went to sleep together, kind of both fighting it, but eventually both fell asleep. Interesting. When I woke up, I realized I must not have slept for very long, as I didn't feel like I had dreamed at all. I was still uneasy and I hadn't turned off the light. While I didn't know the time, it was fairly likely that people were looking for us and couldn't get in the attic. I didn't care anymore. My back hurt and I was just as tired as before. I slowly stood up and approached the light switch. But my hand stopped before touching it, and so did my whole body. Did I just do this? I noticed something very important next to the bed. There was only one thing I'd done before falling asleep. Look at my purse. I'd stared at it and then forced myself to look away, nervous that it was so out in the open. Because if I'd fallen asleep, someone could have looked inside, and that was something that couldn't happen. I crouched very slowly and then looked at it from the same position as before. It moved. It wasn't like that when I fell asleep. The difference was minimal, but I'd noticed it immediately, and it was no mistake. No, did he? Or did I just poke it when I stood up? I widened the opening with my fingers and looked inside. Everything's here. Nothing had been taken, but that didn't settle it. The keys were inside. If someone had gone through my purse, it was very likely those keys had been the target, but they were far from my concern. Atsuki and I should have been alone in the attic, which had both of its entrances locked. I suddenly wasn't sensing my tiredness anymore. I grabbed my purse and approached the hatch. It was shut, so I slowly lifted it up. Are you awake? Yes. I only slept for a few minutes and couldn't do it again. How do you know it was only a few minutes? That's just what it felt like. Did you just wake up? I took a few seconds to reply while I climbed down the ladder. The light was turned on and the sheets over him were in disarray. Yeah, I don't know how long it's been. I spent a very long time trying to sleep again, so I think at least 2 hours. Oh, really? Yeah. I don't think it'll happen. Are you still tired? No, I'm fine now. I see. I felt as if part of my mind had cleared up. We'd seriously gotten trapped in the building, and Atsuki had traveled through time. Could that be true? Could that really have happened? He sat on the bed and stretched his arms. It was so absurd that I hadn't been able to react when I'd seen him teleport. It had all suddenly happened with no chance of doubt, but what was going on? Only after waking up had I begun to comprehend how strange it was that he'd wanted to go to the attic. Did you hear anything outside the bedroom? No, we might really have the only key to this place. Since I didn't want to ask, I approached the door. The chain wasn't set, so I turned the handle to see if he'd locked it. The door opened smoothly, indicating that anyone could have made their way in. Do you want to go back down? I was waiting for you to wake up. I'm not as tired anymore. Yeah, sure. Was I being toyed with? The more seconds passed, the more I felt that way. Atsuki stood up and silently walked to the hallway. Nobody crossed this floor. I can hardly see the footprints anymore. You have the key with you, right? Yes. Well, we should probably use the elevator again, so I don't think we'll need it. He tried to open the door, but he couldn't. I suppose someone called it while we were sleeping. I leaned on the wall while he pressed a button. I was acting disinterested naturally, but I couldn't get the sight of my purse out of my head. The silent orange light indicated that the elevator had arrived. Atsuki dragged the door open and we walked in. The elevator began to descend toward the lowest floor, the destination that Atsuki had chosen. I guess I'll have to apologize for going up, but we were really tired and I wonder if they found Naomi. Atsuki was resembling Kate more and more to me, and I didn't know if I could trust him. Behind him was the red stop button. Kate had said that pressing it would confine us inside until the alarm's effects automatically disabled. But I didn't dare touch it, allowing the doors to open. After Atsuki pushed open the outer one, hallway C came in sight, as barren as we remembered it. Let's go to the security room. Maybe we can look at the time. The light was on, but no screens were. That meant that Sai's watch was still all we had. It hasn't been fixed. I can't hear anyone, but they should still be somewhere on this floor. Atsuki was ready to leave, but I couldn't help but feel iffy about the computer's shutdown. Kate had been the only one to try to fix it. Since we were alone, I crashed under the desk and stared at the mess of cables that Kate had been examining. After glancing back and forth, an oddity stood out. Can you even see properly down there? Yes, and this cable isn't plugged in. Uh-huh. I don't know what it's for, but Kate said that everything was in place. Can you tell where it should go? The angle was uncomfortable on my neck, but I strained to look behind the computer tower and found a slot that could fit. Having to use my left hand, I grabbed the cable and managed to plug it into the computer. I don't know if that did anything, but it's plugged in now. I clambered out as Atsuki pressed the power button. A few seconds later, the system began to run. Are you serious? The middle screen lit up and the loading logo glowed. I don't get it. Did Kate do this and hope we wouldn't look at the cables? I'd begun to gather hope, but it dissipated as soon as the computer turned off again. Huh? Is it still not working? Confused, Atsuki powered it on one more time. The same thing happened. Seconds after running, it automatically powered off. Atsuki looked under the desk in case he could spot the problem. I don't see anything clearly wrong. Maybe the operating system got damaged. I see. We need to tell the others about this, especially Kate. Right. We were about to leave when Atsuki remembered what I'd said. Oh wait, we might still be able to look at the time. He walked back toward the computer and powered it on. While it was running, he looked at the screen and pressed one of the suggested keys. Then the screen changed. I just accessed the BIOS. If I knew more about computers, I might be able to pinpoint the issue, but look here. In the top right corner, 1316 was displayed in black digits. Oh, 13... Alrighty. I guess I did sleep for over 2 hours. Yeah. Did you hear that? No, I didn't hear anything. He warily walked to the hallway A door and looked through it. I think I heard something in the lobby. Seeing how cautious he was, I approached it myself. Nobody was there. Still fazed by the imposing shutter, Atsuki walked forward a little. Did I imagine it? Both other doors were shut. Atsuki circled the room at a slow pace and stopped to smell the air. Then he continued his circle with a frown. There's this open drawer. It wasn't like this before, was it? I walked up to him. Behind the reception desk, one of the drawers wasn't fully closed. Oh, no, I don't think so. We looked inside and confirmed that there was nothing in it. Then Atsuki proceeded to open all the other drawers. There's only papers in a few of them. That's strange. I honestly can't be sure it wasn't opened before. Something else we'll have to ask. While walking toward hallway B, Atsuki noticed I still hadn't moved. What's up? Come back, you hear this faint buzz, right? Yes, it's coming from below, right? It's the boiler. I was thinking that it must be really annoying to work at this chair with this constant noise. But then I thought that it might not have been as noticeable before. You didn't go to the mechanical room, but the rest of us did. I'm not sure it was audible from up here. Oh. He looked at the door he'd not yet gone through. Actually, I remember beginning to hear the sound as we were going down the stairs. As soon as he opened it, the intensity of the sound strengthened. There was no light on the stairs and they immediately made a sharp turn. You think the boiler got louder then? Oh, that's not what I meant. After a few steps forward, I'd confirmed my assumption. The short door leading to the mechanical room was partially open. It's this door. It was shut when we came, so the sound didn't reach us. I don't remember if we closed it when we left. Ah, I see. So at most it means that someone went down here, but I'm sure they searched for us and Naomi. It's fine. We began descending the stairs. If he'd really heard a sound coming from the lobby, it was possible someone was under us. After widening the gap of the door, he stepped into the basement room, which was constantly beset by the buzzing noise. I stopped behind him, waiting for my eyes to adjust to the illumination the faint light bulb offered. But even when that happened, the darkness still reigned. Atsuki started to walk slowly in order to comprehend where he was. I don't think there's anyone here. I could discern a few pieces of furniture that Atsuki had moved aside and the walls closest to me. Strangely, I felt relieved to hear that there was nobody with us, even though we wanted to find the others. Wait, no. Look. I thought we were about to leave, but that wasn't the case. I approached the dark blob Atsuki was next to until it was revealed to be a pile of chairs. Behind it, on the floor, was an abnormal weak glow. The Sekimeiya, the gemstone we'd come to see and which possessed a mysterious power. Immobile on the floor, it resembled the ceiling light. Sai was right. Kate had the key and he used it while we were in the attic. Yeah. I'm not sure why he'd hide the Sekimeiya though. I don't think it makes any sense. He would have had better places to hide it, like his locker. You think so? We could force him to open it at any time and it would be easily found after the exit opens. Atsuki crouched next to the Sekimeiya and stared at it. You gonna use it? We don't know how long it's been here for, so it might not be a good idea. What do you mean? Well, if the time you travel depends on how long it spends out of the cabinet, you could go really far back. Oh, I see. Once again he went quiet. I had no idea what he was thinking, but I knew I didn't like it. Sai told me not to let him get his hands on the Sekimeiya, and I had no idea why. All I knew was that he was keeping some of his thoughts to himself, and that I felt he might have lied to me. He had been thinking something up, that I was sure of. Not only because I knew him, but also because he'd admitted it to me. For once, the silence wasn't entirely pure. The mechanical room's noise was pervasive. A minute after staring at the gemstone, Atsuki's hand hovered over it. What are you doing? It's hot, the air around it. Oh, that's weird. When I touched it earlier, I felt a zap for an instant before I teleported. I have no idea how, but it heated up really fast. When I was holding the cushion from below, it went from cold to hot in a minute. I didn't know how to answer, but the bizarre situation sunk in even further. What the hell was the Sekimeiya, and what was it doing with us? Are you going to use it to change the past? I don't know. That answer reinforced everything I'd been feeling. He couldn't not know. He knew exactly what his goal was, and I did too, so why was he acting so reserved? But he didn't flesh out his answer, opting to resume his silence. Even though I couldn't see his face, his slow breathing told me all I needed to know. I might have pushed the issue further if something hadn't hit me. When he teleported. After mentioning the time, he touched the Sekimeiya. A glaring contradiction that I'd previously ignored reared its head. He'd traveled to the attic, right? Yes. He's lying. There's no way he traveled to the attic. Did he not realize that it doesn't make sense? He said he traveled 20 minutes to the past. At that point, all of us were in the attic as well. That's fine depending on where he appeared. It's not like he erased his past self, right? But if he appeared in one of the rooms after they'd been investigated, we wouldn't have seen him. But there's a big problem. Where in the attic did you appear? In the kitchen, and I'm pretty sure that's because I went there before we left. It's something I was trying to figure out earlier. No, he's lying. The only part of the attic where he could have appeared would have been the staircase at the entrance. Every other place doesn't make sense. When we searched the whole floor, we made sure nobody could have sneaked past us. Kate waited in the corner of the hallway and Akira in the living room. As Erina said, 20 minutes before the time he travelled, all of us were still in the attic and were about to leave. Atsuki, who had travelled, didn't deny that. According to him, he appeared in the kitchen and then we left. That's not right. For some reason the elevator started functioning again and Sai called it. Then him, Akira, Erina and Isla went to the crystal floor with it. However, Kate, Atsuki and I left through the main door and locked it. Atsuki, after appearing in the kitchen, would not have been able to leave the attic. He couldn't have left through the staircase before us because there were no footprints that started from the kitchen. Then when we left, we locked the main door, but most importantly, we learned that when the three of us arrived at the crystal floor, Kate saw the door of the elevator slightly open. How does he not understand that what he's saying is impossible? The elevator remained open on the crystal floor until the time after he'd already reunited with us. This means that if he'd been in the attic, he couldn't have called it. It couldn't have happened. When we were in the security room, the elevator was still open, and it must have been either Sai or Naomi who finally closed it. Could it be that it wasn't a group of four who left the door open? Is it possible Atsuki used the elevator immediately after them and it was actually him who didn't close it properly? I don't think he would have had enough time to call it back and go all the way down, and it's very unlikely the others wouldn't have seen him. It's even possible we would have heard the elevator going up and down from the offices. So how did he leave the attic? It's not possible, he couldn't have. Both methods were unavailable. The only way would have been with the key that I have. Even if somehow he got out, maybe by Naomi unlocking the door, he should have mentioned that it was unlocked when it shouldn't have been. This is confirmation that he's lying. I became aware of the smell surrounding me, and one time which almost seamlessly blended in. The one which, where did I get time from? Its cold sensation had persisted in my nostrils since the first time we'd encountered it, so it hadn't been easy to notice it had strengthened again. Alright, I'll touch it. There's one thing I absolutely have to confirm. And what is that? Whether or not the past can be changed. You think it can't? I don't know. I wasn't able to change anything the last time. I have no idea how this will work. I'll disappear from this room and appear somewhere else. If I try to change what I experienced, I don't know how the universe will react. Perhaps you won't notice any difference and I'll branch the world. Maybe this reality will instantly morph into the one I'm making. Despite how ridiculous he sounded, all he was saying was that he was about to leave me there. That perhaps I'd stay in the world he'd disappeared from while he'd gone on to find his better reality. It was annoying, and given everything else going on in my head, I simply shrugged. He would leave me behind with the Sekimeiya, which would be a great chance to fulfill Sai's request. I was going to say that if the past can't be changed, I'll be above the stairs after I disappear. There's no way that'll be the case. If I was there right now, I'd try to make a loud noise to change the past, so I have no clue what's about to happen. He didn't talk about it further. Finally, the hand that had been teasing contact for so long dropped to touch the shining gem. Instantly, Atsuki's outline disappeared. What? And with it, the darkness disappeared as well. I almost fell in place. Before I could crouch to grab the Sekimeiya, the door to the lobby was in front of me. It was hallway A. While the illumination was poor, it wasn't comparable to the mechanical room, mostly thanks to the light coming from the event room. I had teleported. Nothing else could have happened. I took one step forward and confirmed that my legs still worked. Oh. A voice came from over my shoulders. I turned around and saw Atsuki, who'd stiffened. Did I just appear out of nowhere? What? No, that's what happened to me. Wait. Were you just in the mechanical room? Yes, I touched the Sekimeiya a second ago. I showed up here as soon as you did that. Are we in the past? Teleported you as well? How come that didn't happen the other times? And both of us appeared here. Hey, what the fuck? Where have you two been? Sai emerged from the event room. Behind him was Erina, who looked surprised to see us. Has anything happened? What? You've been gone for over 2 hours. Answer the question. Atsuki appeared wary, perhaps because Sai might have heard what we'd been talking about. We walked to the event room. Isla was with them, and she looked a little sad, standing next to the cabinet with its empty interior exposed. The Sekimeiya was probably still in the mechanical room at that moment. We didn't get any sleep last night, so we were really tired and went to the attic. We woke up a few minutes ago. The fuck? You were sleeping? Why didn't you say anything? Because Kate wouldn't have let us. Excuse me? Was Kate not with you? What? No, he wasn't. We went alone. Where is he then? We haven't seen him either. Not for a long time. He wasn't with us. We thought the three of you were in the attic, which we couldn't enter. No, we were alone. What the fuck then? You don't have any idea where he went? Well, we thought you three were locked up there, so we didn't search everywhere. We even thought Naomi might have been with you since she's still missing. What about Akro? Where's he? No idea, but I saw him not too long ago. He's been here the whole time. Do you still have the key to the attic? Yes. I see, that's good. Hold on, what happened to the Sekimeiya? Why is it not here? We have no idea. We thought one of you might have come down to pick it up and brought it to the attic. The cabinet was locked and none of us had the key to unlock it. If you two didn't take it out, Kate or Naomi must have another key. It's been gone from the cabinet for a while, but Akra and I searched this floor and found it in a drawer in the lobby. We put it back here and about 20 minutes ago we realized it had been taken out again. Like I said, if it was neither of you, it must have been Kate or Naomi. Oh, right, what time is it? It's 13:19. He showed us his wristwatch. Immediately Atsuki turned to face me. I knew why. At that moment we had just walked down the stairs to the mechanical room. We'd been there for a while, and then when we had appeared in hallway A during the time we'd been in the security room. Atsuki wanted to change the past, and he had the chance to do so. I doubted that he wanted to be seen by his past self, but making a loud noise would serve as a confirmation that the possibility existed. If nothing else, I'd be able to witness it too, thanks to traveling with him. However, it was at that moment that a sound reached our ears. As we glanced at the hallway A door, the sound got louder. It didn't take much time for the door to open, revealing Akra on the other side. Everyone present was surprised at the same time. While Akra hadn't expected to see me and Atsuki, we hadn't expected to see who he was with either. At his side, Kate, who we'd been told had been missing for quite a while, timidly stared at us. It seemed that our reaction had been just as he'd expected. Hey, what the fuck have you been doing? Remaining silent, Kate turned to the cabinet. They were found too. They said they were sleeping alone in the attic. Kate, what are you waiting for? Where the fuck have you been? I've been here. Sorry? I've been here this whole time. I didn't go anywhere. What? Do you know how long it's been since we saw you? I'm being serious. Do you have any idea how long we've been looking around for you? It's been almost 3 hours, I know. I couldn't have gone anywhere. I just came across Akro 10 minutes ago. I saw him in hallway C and asked him the same thing. He said he'd been here looking for us. We went to the 6th floor to find you since I'd seen you there earlier, and I didn't know where Eren and Isla were. I looked at Atsuki, who'd been quiet for a while. He was thinking about something, but was it along the lines of everyone showing up meaning that the past couldn't change? It still should have been as simple as going to the lobby. Where's the Sekimeiya? And did I hear that you two were sleeping in the attic? Did I not tell you? Shut up, what the fuck did that even mean? What? You said that it's almost been 3 hours since we saw you. How the fuck do you even know that? What? I answered your question. Almost 3 hours is awfully precise and is correct. If you truly were here and for some reason didn't see anyone for 3 hours, would your sense of time be good enough to know that? Are you doing this again? Trying to blame me for anything you can? You're a fucking liar. You haven't been here for hours. Where the fuck were you and why are you back? The computer doesn't work and I'm the only one with a watch. How did you accurately say that you've been gone for 3 hours? Hey, did Naomi have a watch? Does anyone remember? The 3 members of the first group shrugged. Atsuki and I knew there was still a way to use a computer to know the time, but I didn't even get the chance to consider if we should mention it. Oh, did you hear that? Yeah, what? Didn't the sound come from the lobby? I didn't hear anything. Nobody had. Probably not even Atsuki, who took no time to exit the room. Our past self still had to be in the mechanical room. If the past couldn't be changed, it meant that something would always prevent him from doing so, but Kate and Akira's arrival hadn't conclusively proven it. Confused, the rest of us followed behind him and saw him opening the door to the lobby. But once he did so, he didn't take even a step forward. Instead, he froze in place, and as he stopped gripping the knob, he turned his head back to us. Who is this? We dashed to the door. When we looked through it, we immediately realized that wasn't the only question to ask.
Isla, stay over there.
A single body lay down on the floor over a vast pool of blood. There was no meaning to be found, no smell of blood, no identity of the corpse, but a death that defied reason. Furthermore, the past had changed, not because of the appearance of a body, but because of Erina's yell, which had spread throughout the crystal floor. A yell we hadn't heard while we'd been downstairs. I immediately understood that someone had been killed. I'd gone over the concept of death many times in my mind, so I simply stared at that dreamlike scene before I was pushed aside.
Isn't he?
The shock had paralyzed everyone, and Kate was the first to snap out of it. He ran towards the body and turned it around, trying not to step on all the blood around it.
Wait, I recognized him too. Wasn't he there?
Sai pointed at the shutter, prompting me to remember that I also knew the man who was dressed in a police uniform.
Yes, that's where I saw him while we were waiting. Fuck.
Atsuki's voice cracked. He wouldn't take his eyes off the body.
He's been here at the tower recently. I don't know his name, but he was investigating a possible terrorist attack.
Kate crouched and used 2 fingers to verify that there was no pulse. He didn't say it out loud.
This is a knife wound.
The uniform on his chest had been pierced a single time, but the knife in question wasn't there. A knife? How did this person get in? Look at the blood. This happened minutes ago. He entered the same way Kate left.
Huh?
You've been missing for the last 3 hours. Just as you reappear, this person shows up dead. This is no coincidence.
What the hell are you talking about? How would I have left?
I don't know. You remember the Sekimeiya, right? As you said, it's not in the cabinet right now, and you're an excellent candidate to have taken it out. It's possible this man entered the tower after it was locked down, and if you did so too, your disappearance, your knowledge of the time, and this knife you're talking about would all make sense.
I cannot believe what I'm hearing. I've been here the entire time, and I couldn't have unlocked the cabinet.
Enraged, Kate pulled up the man's shirt and uncovered his waist.
Yes, look at this. This is why I thought it must have been a knife. It was his own. He still has his baton, but his knife is gone. I personally saw that he had a knife right here a few days ago.
He continued examining his clothes and pockets.
Oh, he has a walkie-talkie.
Everyone's eyes widened until we saw Kate pressing every button and showing us its blank display. Is it not working? Let me see. Kate gave Akro the device. After fiddling with it for a while, he noticed what was wrong. There's a battery missing, and the cover isn't properly attached. There's also a crack here on the bottom, look. These work with normal batteries? Apparently, and this cover can be manually removed. Maybe they failed to break it by force and remove the battery instead. Are there batteries like these anywhere?
No, I really don't think so.
He left the device on the floor.
So, the culprit must have done this to prevent us from talking to people outside once again. I have to assume that you still have not found Naomi, so instead of blaming me, consider that it's very possible this person has been here since we got trapped and we didn't find him, just like we couldn't find Naomi.
Okay, then you killed him?
Don't say stuff like that. I didn't do this.
Then who did? It seems like it could have been anyone, but your story is by far the most questionable one. Do we really have to keep listening to this Naomi boogeyman shtick? Stop. Akuro, is what you said earlier true, that you found Kate 10 minutes before coming to the event room?
Yes. I don't know if it was really 10 minutes though.
What time is it right now? 13:23. It's unlikely Kate did this then. 6 minutes ago this hadn't happened yet. Is that so? You two were talking in hallway A. Did you look at the lobby? I recall the door was shut. We did. He's right. At 13:17 we'd walked down to the mechanical room, which meant that the man had died while we'd been under him. You're not lying, then forget what I said. Everyone has an alibi unless 2 or more people did it. You two were together, Kate and Akro were together, me and Erina and Isla were together. We looked past the door where Erina was crouching next to Isla, comforting her from a sight she hadn't seen. Despite that, she was burying her face in her arms. A dour mood had overtaken the entire group. I wasn't sure if it was because they had been exposed to death or because they feared the killer. Atsuki's demeanor had changed the least, probably because it didn't have far to go anyway. Regardless, I had to put on the same appearance, and it came naturally after the previous 2 weeks. The death of that man meant nothing to me, and I was only a little intrigued.
I'd always known I'd react like that, and while I knew I couldn't show it, I didn't feel it was necessarily problematic as long as nobody found out.
So, it was actually Naomi?
I have no idea how this person entered the tower. It's possible he was here from the beginning, or there could actually be a secret way in. It wouldn't surprise me given the track record this place has. However, this man is a police officer, so whoever the culprit is might have killed him just because of that. I'm not sure how they took his knife or how we didn't hear a fight. In fact, I have no clue what happened. None of us have blood on our clothes, which I suppose doesn't mean anything since it doesn't seem like much blood sprayed out, but I'll remind you all again that Sekimeiya was hidden a while ago. All of us go back to having no alibi when everyone is able to go to the past.
Are you joking? You think one of us will go to the past and kill this man?
Well, you said Naomi still has a set of keys identical to yours. Whether or not that's true, we know of someone who does for sure. Multiple pairs of eyes faced me. I have it. We didn't hide the Sekimeiya though. And if we had, we wouldn't have needed it to do this because we're the ones who saw this hole empty minutes ago. That's right, which forces me to point out the topic you were discussing in hallway A. I touched the Sekimeiya a second ago. Didn't those words come out of your mouth? They did, so you lied. You didn't see the lobby before I heard you since you appeared there from the future. You're right, but we did see it before touching the Sekimeiya. It doesn't invalidate what we said. You're admitting it, good. Is this travel yet to happen? I think it must have just happened. I don't know if anything went differently this time, but we found the Sekimeiya in the mechanical room, so whoever took it hid it there. Below us, and you appeared in the hallway.
I'm confused. You found a Sekimeiya, and I don't get how you got to that conclusion, Sai. Atsuki appeared there from the future, so he's the only one who couldn't have been able to look at the lobby before you saw them, right?
No, both of... He stopped himself when he realized he'd made a mistake. His pause was what made Atsuki and me notice it. Oh, you know exactly what happened, don't you? You overheard our conversation when we said we had traveled together. Akuro thought only I had appeared in the hallway, but you know both of us did. I touched the Sekimeiya, which made both of us travel at the same time. And you were about to say no, both of them traveled. However, given the knowledge of the Sekimeiya you should have, that shouldn't be possible. After touching it, the Sekimeiya would power off and it would take a while before anyone could activate it again. Does that mean that you knew that was possible? You haven't explained much about what you did during the time we were in the attic. What are you talking about? I was gonna say that both of you traveled together because it's what you two said. I stopped myself when I realized that Akuro was right. It didn't make sense. No, I don't think so. Sai shook his head, disregarding Atsuki's accusation. Then he walked to the mechanical room. So you two traveled recently, right? Should we just ignore the fact that you avoided telling us the location of the Sekimeiya if we're to believe you didn't hide it? He didn't wait for an answer before he began to descend the staircase. The door had been left slightly open by the two of us so that the darkness below was at least slightly alleviated. Atsuki shared dubious looks with the others at Sai sidestepping the issue, but there was no choice except waiting for him to return.
You don't think he might have wanted to use the Sekimeiya, right?
Atsuki walked to the door, worried about Sai's intentions, but he stopped himself short after a couple of steps. I was right, they're lying. What? We aren't. Where's the Sekimeiya supposed to be then? It was behind a pile of chairs. Incorrect, there is nothing down there.
Are you sure?
You're all free to go see by yourselves. I knew that couldn't be true. We'd most likely arrived at the lobby before we disappeared from the mechanical room, so the Sekimeiya had to still be there. If Sai was so blatantly lying, had he found a way to frame us? Can you open that hip pack? This? Sure. Do you think I have it? I'm being serious. I didn't find it, but it's possible I missed it. Go look. Sai didn't have the Sekimeiya on himself, so Atsuki accepted his suggestion and gestured at me to stay put. Everyone silently stood in anticipation next to the still expanding pool of blood. Nothing, right?
Yeah, it's not there.
You should have trusted me. Do you feel like changing your version of events now? No, we already said what happened. The Sekimeiya should still be there. What, did it disappear then? I guess it wouldn't be that ridiculous. Sai had managed to switch roles as soon as he'd been on the defensive, but it didn't seem to be bothering Atsuki much.
Did he think that the past had been changed and that what was happening was the result? It didn't make a lot of sense to me. What do you all think? Not a good look to be caught lying like this, is it? Don't you think that if we wanted to lie, we would have said that we found the Sekimeiya somewhere where it could have been taken? That's always too ineffective of an excuse. This policeman either had a way to not be found for hours, or he had some way to enter the building, and he... Atsuki blinked several times, almost like he was fighting back tears. Someone killed him, and it's not easy for any of us to have done it. Finally, the Sekimeiya isn't where it should be. Added to the fact that Naomi hasn't been found, you can't possibly think we did this, right? You didn't? There's no way. I think Naomi is the first person to suspect. Not only has she managed to remain hidden, but she also might have the same keys that we have. There are no cameras here, but we don't know if they're recording in the first place. You said you didn't inspect the whole building because you thought we were in the attic, right? We have to be missing something that the culprit is aware of. Could there be a place we're ignoring?
That's impossible.
If not, then one of you must have done this. Naomi's disappearance should be enough proof that we're missing something, though. We have to find her or whoever else is here. It's almost guaranteed that this man was with us since this morning and we didn't find him. I think that's much more likely than some hidden passage. If it's neither of those, there's still an answer with the Sekimeiya. This policeman could have come from the future if he touched the Sekimeiya after 2100, and Naomi could have left the tower by going far to the past. We found the Sekimeiya in the attic and don't know where it is now. We'll look everywhere. Not only could people still be hiding, but the Sekimeiya has to be somewhere too. I can't imagine the real culprit doesn't know where. Go ahead and find Naomi for us. It's certainly possible someone's on this floor. Don't move from here. Okay. He began by looking in the storeroom and then in the room in front. He probably didn't know about the fact that some cabinets could be opened up. Is he doing this by himself? Does he not trust us? From hallway C, 6 pairs of eyes stared at him, moving from room to room. It took a while in each one. Did you hear that?
What?
No. I glanced at Sai and discerned that he was definitely still suspecting Atsuki of something. Atsuki exited from the farthest away crystal room and turned to us. Without saying anything, he entered the security room. What the fuck is he doing?
You think he's taking advantage of this to do something?
Yes. I felt like I was watching everything unfold from the sidelines, oblivious as to what was really happening. For some reason, Atsuki hadn't revealed that we'd powered on the computer while he told me that we would. When he left the security room, he looked at us again and finally addressed us. Stay there, I'll look at the mechanical room again. He disappeared from our sight. Soon we began to hear the same sound of doors opening coming from hallway B. Akira and Sai went to look while the rest of us waited behind. When he returned, it didn't seem like he'd found anything. There's nobody here. I didn't find the Sekimeiya or any potential hiding spot we don't know of. If Naomi's here, she's somehow above us. Are you sure you were thorough? Do you know how some cabinets have compartments inside? The Sekimeiya could be there. Yes, I looked in all of them.
Even the ones with temperature regulation? Did you make sure to close them?
Those two, yeah. It took me a bit to figure out how to open them. Before moving on, Atsuki looked in both bathrooms. Finally, he grabbed the elevator's handle. The door opened, revealing the empty elevator. I'll keep it open so that it can't be used. Alright, let's go. We started to go up the stairs and I found myself following first again. After passing through the narrow grey door, we stepped back onto the desolate second floor. Atsuki opened both bathroom doors and quickly dismissed them. Nothing. I hated agreeing with Sai without knowing why, but he was right. It was hard not to think that Atsuki's attitude was odd. It was really frustrating. I'd always been good at reading him, but while he walked toward the partitions, I had no comprehension of what his thoughts were. Wait here. Can I do it instead? Huh? Yeah, sure. His nonchalant reaction threw me off, but I opened the door without letting that show. It had been a nice idea to look through the whole building, which might have been why Sai had distrusted him. However, my confusion went beyond that. He'd openly told me about his intentions to change the past, so why did the sensation that he was hiding something still persist when he'd confided in me? I kept going over it as I opened drawers and looked behind the computers. Every time I thought that maybe it was all in my head, something else reinforced the opposite. There weren't many places to look at, so I was soon done with the 3 partitions. I didn't find anything. You looked everywhere, right? It hit me that we were still alone. Yes, but did the others not come? I think they stayed on the crystal floor and let us go by ourselves. Really? Yes, and we should continue. We have to find something, be it Naomi or the Sekimeiya. I shrugged lightly before we moved up to the 3rd floor. There the same process was repeated. He looked at the 2 bathrooms and I handled the partitions, while he waited outside so that no one crossed the path. Our repeated movements led to the first step on floor 4. Let's see here. It's not possible. She's not anywhere. Behind the glass I started to look through the same places as below, all while wondering whether I'd report the result anyway. I opened the door to the 2nd partition and vanished from Atsuki's field of vision. There were only drawers that I questioned whether to keep checking. Midway through I decided to push open the door to the last section. I stared inside. I kept doing so for many seconds, gripping the door's handle with my right hand. One of the many thoughts that crossed my mind was if I should move. Until I realized that it wasn't up to me. It hadn't been my choice not to move. However, my hand soon let go of the handle and the door was shut again. When it did, I couldn't open it again. I stood next to it for a long time, during which I only focused on my breathing. Eventually, I comprehended that I was still able to move, and I took a step back. Strangely, neither my vision nor my mind seemed to be blurry. I looked at the opaque wall and discerned a few silhouettes belonging to the chairs on the other side. However, I couldn't open the door again, and I didn't want to. I'd developed an irrational fear of spiders early on in my life. Whenever I knew a spider was in a room, I'd freeze behind its door, unable to open it. That was the same sensation I felt as I slowly backed away.